Hey, everybody, this is the SSFA Draft Review Show. I'm joined here by Michael Reeves and Butch Shremick, and we're going to talk about the SSFA draft. We got it done in a brisk 4 hours thanks to the excellent timekeeping done by Dan Morin and the, organized and crack the whip style of NFL Ed. And I mean that in a good way. I like the way he moves us along, puts guys on the clock, tracks all the trades that he needs to in the draft sheet and puts it up on the web so that if you fall behind, you can pull that up and do some control Fs and finds it. So say hello, Butch. How's it going?
Hey, everybody.
And Michael.
Hey, everybody. Hey, thanks, Ed and everybody who put together a very good draft. It was very brisk.
Yep.
I liked it. Yeah, I think one of the new coaches told me, man, it was so fast I couldn't update my sheet fast enough. So that's the way it goes, and I think that's a good way for you could if you emulated the way Ed runs his leagues, you'd be in good shape as a commissioner. So what I'd like to do is clear my screen. We got the other guys here. If you guys have something you want to share out, let me know. But I thought we'd briefly go through the first round, talk about guys who dropped, guys who went higher than you thought maybe. And then we can then look at what the teams have done as a whole. I have another sheet sorted by team, and you can look at the entire draft of one team. We can talk briefly about each team if you want. Sound good?
Yep.
Okay, so first round, number one pick. I think we were all kind of expecting Lamar Jackson to go there. Any thoughts on Lamar's, or any chance that turns out to be a pick that he regrets?
Not in the foreseeable future, I don't think. Yeah. No, I think that was the pick.
Yeah, and I think that even though he's a different style of quarterback, a very unique quarterback where he has, he had over 1,000 rushing yards. It's just his completion percentage was good. That offense is good. The only thing you worry about is maybe offense is trying to get a read on how to stop him. But he's such a unique athlete that they know what he's going to do. They've had plenty of tape to watch, and it was still difficult to stop him. I think the Tennessee Titans, it's going to be hard to emulate their blueprint because it was get ahead and force them into mistakes. And if the Ravens had converted a couple of those fourth and shorts, they'd still be playing right now. So I think John's going to be happy with that pick for a long time. So the second pick was Sam Darnold. I think Mick made a trade to move up to that spot. He got rid of his longtime starter Drew Brees, right?
Yeah.
To jump up there. It was a package deal. But what do you guys think about Sam Darnold over Baker Mayfield?
I think that's the right move. I think, again, I didn't see all 16 games of Cleveland this year, but pretty much any authority would say that he regressed between this year and last year.
But was that his talent, or was that the coaching staff? Because I think we all pretty much agree that Freddie Kitchens was in over his head. He refused to give up play calling duty, and Mayfield was surrounded by good weapons. So, I kind of feel the same way that Darnold is the way to go instead of Mayfield. But something in the back of my mind tells me that, it could have been something that was outside of Baker Mayfield's control.
Yeah, I agree. I have the 2 pick in Frozen Tundra, and I was thinking about Mayfield depending on the head coach selection. I was kind of hoping they'd, get McCarthy in. Now I don't think I'm going to take him at 2. I'll be honest with you. So.
Yeah, it's tough, and some of the off the field stuff, and I mentioned it in the preview show last night. It just kind of rubs me the wrong way that he's not really willing to accept help to try to improve his craft, and we'll see. And the other thing that gets me is that Darnold's 4 years younger than Mayfield. That's a big deal. If he's able to do this as a 22-year-old, 23-year-old in the NFL, what Mayfield was doing was as a 26-year-old. So it's a little bit different story. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so then, go ahead.
I do agree with Dan. I did watch the mock draft, and I'm not sold on Darnold yet either. So that's one of those things. We'll see what happens. So.
And I think that explains why Lamar Jackson was such an easy pick at 1-1, because the other guys have a lot of questions. You're going to have to suffer without a good Jackson card this year, but he could put together a string of, 5, 6, 7 years while his speed is still elite, where his cards are reflect that. So it presents an interesting problem for Stratomatic too. They've got to figure out a way to make sure you give him his due, while keeping in, taking into consideration the running game of Baltimore, their run blockers, their receivers. So we'll see what happens.
Right. It'll be interesting next year what Stratomatic decides to do. What kind of a split are they going to make for him? What is his guest? Really, in essence, what's his guest right card going to be like next year?
Yeah. And do they have to change the way the machine works in order to make it fit? So, okay. So number 3 overall. I know I expected Jair Alexander to be a top 10 pick, but I'm not sure I expect him to go to that high at number 3. What are you guys' thoughts?
I was shocked.
I agree. I think he was a top 10, but maybe 8, 9, 10. That's where I was looking.
But then again, you look at it, if Tom is a Packers fan, and that's going to be it's like maybe me drafting Richard Sherman or something like that. You're getting a stud corner. You're not going to draft again until round 2. If you want him and you pick at 1-3, you take him. He's going to be a cornerstone for your defense for a long time. So in a way, I was a little surprised, but in a way, I really wasn't. Now, in an ideal world, you're able to trade down from 1-3, pick up something else, and move down to 1-7 or something like that, and let the guy who wants Mayfield pay you a premium to move up. But it's tough to do that when you come into a league you don't really know all the coaches, and you're trying to just find your footing. I don't mind that pick at all, but
no, it's not a bad pick. I just think it was kind of a surprise.
Yeah, but then again, you look at the other picks in round 1. It's like tough. There's not like, oh my God, this guy had to go here. This guy had to go there.
Right.
We did that exercise last night when we went through and identified the last 2 drafts, who were hits and who were misses. And I think 2 years from now, Jair Alexander is still going to be a hit.
Yeah. Right. But again, what makes this league a little different, it's obvious. Not only do we have a rookie season under his belt, but now we have the benefit of a second season under his belt too. And PFF basically had him as a top 20 corner. So there's no sophomore slump with this guy. You basically have a 5 this year, and he's banking on, and he will get a 5 next year for sure. So maybe he just wants a steady performer. I mean, a lot of us picked Denzel Ward a little early, and come to find out, he might be a little injury prone. He's certainly going to get a 4, I would think, this year. So maybe he's just looking for something that's going to be steady for this and next.
Right.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, then I think this is a guy I knew would shoot up the draft board based on how he played after he was traded. But Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Giants at number 5. What do you guys think of that pick?
Good pick. I liked it. Maybe a little high, but Joe's not going for it this year, so he could do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
I liked him in autumn win too. The guy had so much versatility; it was hard to tell what exactly he was going to do. But I think it became pretty obvious he was headed to safety, and he really, really solidified that Steelers secondary.
He did. He skipped Leonard though.
He skipped. I'm sorry. You're right.
Yeah.
Baltimore. I went right to Minkah, the guy who stood out to me. You're right, Darius Leonard. That the Baltimore pick at 1-4. He played great as a rookie, played solid as a sophomore, had a little bit of injury history. Give your 2-minute summary on what do you think of Darius Leonard, guys?
I like Darius Leonard a lot. I really do. So.
Yeah, I think that.
No argument here.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that pick at all. And the other thing too is that I understand why he went, just like in the fall, these guys went high because there's such a dearth of outside linebackers with a 5 rating or above. And he looks like he's going to be able to his speed is going to help him keep that coverage rating. What was his PFF rating for coverage this year?
I'll look.
Yeah, I don't recall.
I can open that up and check it, but we'll move on. Minka Fitzpatrick, again, I thought he would go higher than he did in the fall, but I didn't know if he would. I didn't really expect him to go this high. I think that's another one like Jay Alexander, and I don't know if I was picking if I would have taken him over Derwin James, who went a few picks later.
Right. That was
Comparing
a tough
those,
one.
yeah, comparing those top safeties, would you have gone Fitzpatrick or would you have gone James?
I would have gone James because I'm going to go for it this year. That's the difference. So
Perfect. Yeah, that's actually a good way to look at it. If you were going for it this year, you're going to take James because you're not going to get as good a rating next year, but then in the future things will even out. If you're not going for it, you suffer with the 4 this year as a 4 cornerback, and then in the future you expect to have those 5s and 6s as a safety. All right, then Jacksonville James.
Leonard's cover score was a 70. You were asking,
which is good for an outside linebacker, I think.
Right. He'll be another 5 again. Okay.
So Quentin Nelson was the next pick, 1/6 to Jacksonville J. That's the safest pick in the draft. This is the kind of player that you're going to get 5.7, 6.7s for the next decade.
Yep. And that's who Jay was targeting all along. So that's what he wanted.
Right. But it's maybe a little surprising that he passed. Does he have a quarterback for the future, Jay? I know he's rebuilding. Or did I miss somebody? Let me look at the rosters real quick, because that would have been a nice spot to get Mayfield, and you feel good about it.
That's the if you feel good about him, I think. So.
Right. Let me go to Jay's team real quick.
I don't know if he picked.
Yeah, he has. Okay, so who else would
trade?
Cody Kessler for the year, but you tell me, if you were in the same spot Jay was, you have Cody Kessler, Mike Glennon, and Chase Daniel. Would you have passed Baker Mayfield to take a guard? I don't care who it is. That's a little surprising, no?
Not if he's not a fan of Mayfield. What's the point?
That's what it's got to be. Yeah,
I agree with Michael 100%. I might have done that as well.
Nice. Okay, good stuff. All right, so the next pick, Derwin James goes to Pitt, and he's got to be ecstatic that he slipped that far. I think in the fall drafts, James rarely went past 5. So
all right, now you skipped the biggest surprise to me in the first round.
Oh, did I skip somebody else now? Who did I skip?
Baker Mayfield going to Tennessee. He got Jackson and Mayfield in the first round.
Oh, that's right. I know we talked about Jay skipping Mayfield for Nelson, but what would just as surprising? Would you have taken 2 quarterbacks in your first 7 picks?
Man, well, not when he could have doubled up with Lamar Jackson and Chubb or Barkley. I don't know who his running back is, but he could have really knocked it out of the park there.
Well, he has no running backs. He has Tavares Allen and Anthony Sherman, who's a fullback, but he is in a major rebuild. Now, I'll tell you one reason why this might wind up working out really well for him. So Baker Mayfield gets a new coach in next year, right? You sit on Mayfield and Jackson. Then next year comes around, Mayfield's proven himself. He's got both of them have like huge value, and you trade one of them for like 3 first-round picks, and suddenly you've gotten that 1.7 has turned into 1.7, 1.25 and a 1.24 and a great another future first-round pick. So
yeah.
I don't know.
What if Mayfield doesn't pan out?
Yeah.
That's the
Sure.
2 top 10 picks for quarterbacks. I mean, I've seen it done once and it didn't work. Of course, that was a few years ago, but we'll see.
But that was Dave Will when he took Glennon and
Geno Smith.
Geno Smith, Geno Smith and Mike Glennon. So, I don't think Baker Mayfield is going to wind up to be the next Geno Smith, but I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then
Derwin James, if you don't mind.
Sure.
5 games. Is it a given that he won't get a card?
Yes, pretty much. if it was the last 5 games of the season and he made an impact in the playoffs, then you could we've seen that happen before where Strat cards him. But when it's the early in the season and he goes away, you're usually not going to get a card unless they make a paradigm shift and change the way they do backups, which I kind of wish they would. I mean, who cares? Who cares if you don't print them cards? These guys all played in the game, and even if you somehow figure out a way to limit them for 5 or 6 games or whatever they actually played,
right.
that would give you a more accurate replay of the season as a computer player. But the cards and dice guys would throw a fit, I bet.
I don't know how Butch feels about this, but I mean, again, I know it's different sports, but baseball, good grief, they card everybody in baseball. If you get one at bat or one inning pitched, and yet, and I say this because, I have J.J. Watt on several of my teams, and he winds up playing 5 games, playing exceedingly well, gets hurt. It's like he doesn't exist. I don't understand why, but then you've got other players who, like Derwin James, when it's all said and done, he will have played, it looks here, about like 300 snaps. Yet there's other players who are just playing bit pieces and bit roles, and they're mostly special teams players. They may have wound up in 12 or 13 games, but they played like 8 or 10 snaps. And so here they are with like half as many snaps, and they get cards. And yet you're taking out some of the stars in this league. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we're the ones who's buying this game. We should have the right to play the stars that we want to. And if you want to sit that star out, or if you want to come up with a limitation that they only get a chance to play 5 out of 16 games, give us the ability to do that. But to just make them disappear, I really wish they would reconsider that. In fact, I wrote Glenn about it. I had a couple things that I wanted to mention to him, not only about a player like this who only plays for 5 or 6 games, or a Bradley Chubb who played for 3 or 4 games and he gets bounced out, but also too, maybe starting to think, especially for us draft leaguers, and I understand that everything is built around stock. I totally get that we're in the minority, but you've got players who shift around from position to position, particularly on the line. And Aaron Donald, for example, who in some cases is going to be a defensive end, that frankly, he moves around the line to a defensive tackle, yet in Strat, he's only a defensive end. Or you've got an Eddie Goldman, who last year I selected in Autumn Wind, who's a nose tackle. And now I'm starting to look on PFF, and it seems like as far as snaps are concerned, it's rotated among 3 or 4. He might be a defensive tackle, and it just screws up everything when you run a 3-4. Yeah. You really need to start thinking about, not every defensive tackle can't play, not every nose tackle can't just move to defensive tackle and have to have a penalty for it. Or if you're a defensive tackle, but you have experience as a nose tackle, you should be able to accept that position without having a penalty. Strat doesn't think that way because they don't want their teams to move from a 4-3 to 3-4 in a stock, but in a draft league, it's essential. And I really wish they would rethink that.
All right, so to sum it up, Michael Reeves is mad as hell, and he's not going to take it anymore. All right, in ranch. I like it. You're preaching to the choir here. I like your suggestions, and I think that, power to the people. At some point,
this isn't about the draft. I get it.
No, but they're all good ideas. I like it. Let's storm City Hall, but we need to organize our militia before we do that. So, okay, moving on. So Derwin James, did we talk about him? That's a great pick. Yes. I like it. I still like it. Yeah, good job by Pitt. Arizona 1-9. Darren Payne. That was a guy I wasn't sure where he went or where he would go when we did the mock last night. He kind of fell out of the first round, which is what could have happened, but that was a great pick, I thought, by Kurt, because his defensive line really needed him. Of course, he really needed a halfback too, long term, with Fournette not really panning out. But Crowell is great for this year, and maybe Barber going forward could bounce back. But anyway, he had his defensive tackles were just Earl Mitchell, who wasn't going to be carded. So he had a gaping hole there in the middle of his defense, and he filled it really well. I like that Darren Payne pick.
Yeah, and he's a nose tackle too, right? Didn't he play a nose tackle as well?
He is a nose tackle. He'll be a nose tackle next year, but going forward with the new coaches in Washington, they're going to move to a 4-3. Mm-hmm. So he'll have 2 years of a nose tackle and then a defensive tackle after that, I think. So,
yeah, please reference my previous rant.
There you go. All right. So then the next pick, 110, Saquon Barkley usually was going in the top 3 picks in the fall,
Good.
falls all the way to 10 to Butch. So Butch, why don't you tell us about why you took Barkley and how excited were you when you saw him slipping?
I was pretty pleased, I have to admit. He kind of fits into my offensive scheme. Once I decided to change gears and go for it this year with Ryan and my receivers, and then Barkley, all I had was David Johnson. So I figured Ryan. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, what's cool about how he fits in your team is that it doesn't really matter if you guess Barkley right or wrong, and you can go 3 wide with Hilton, Brown, and Hill, and Barkley in a single back set, and just drive coaches crazy.
Well, and you know me too well, Dennis. That's my plan. That's why I traded for Brown. I'm going 3 wides from the get-go. So, yeah,
Yep.
I mean, guessed wrong or right. It's a chunky card. I know that, and like I was telling you, Jay and I had a plan if there was something different that happened to swap picks, but his receiving card's another big reason that I went for him too. So I did a happy dance when he was there. I'll be honest with you.
Oh God, you should. That's
Nice.
an elite talent, and to slip from 1 in real life down to 10, and it's not like there was anything in this year's season that would have made people think, "Well, no, I'm going to pass on him." That's a awesome pick. You should be thrilled.
Yeah, and the way he finished, he finished the season really strong. So I'm hoping that's going to show up for next year as well. Kind of an indication.
And you were able to add all that talent for this year without really sacrificing your future draft. The only thing you've traded next year is a 2019 4th rounder. So well done on that end. And then the first kind of surprise, I thought, and again, this is a good player, but Pitt went back on the clock and they selected Phillip Lindsay over Nick Chubb. So what are your thoughts on that pick or on those 2 players?
Better card, but I think Chubb's got it in the long run. I really do.
I don't even know if does he have a better card? Let me look at the ranking.
Ranked on Ed's rankings, he definitely does. Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
And I'm playing Chubb and Autumn Wind, and he has holes in that card. So.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. And their carries are exactly the same for this season. But going forward, Chubb's got a little bit more of a workhorse load. Although with Kareem Hunt there, maybe that changes because he missed the first half of the season. So Lindsey's part of his issue is he has to share the job with Freeman. So that's why I thought Chubb would be the way to go. But both those guys were going to be 1st round picks, and maybe if you slotted Lindsey into the back half of the 1st round and Chubb into the top half of the 1st round, here they go. They met in the middle, and I think both coaches will be happy with those players. Lindsey's
it's not a bad pick, but I had him behind Chubb and Carson.
Right. Yeah. Chris Carson's another guy that moved down. So
is Pittsburgh, do they have a team that's actually going to compete this year?
That's a good question. Let me check it out. I don't. Let's see.
That's Keith.
He's Dan. He's got Carson Wentz, Kareem Hunt now and then Lindsey.
Mm-hmm.
His receivers are so. The rest of his team looks pretty decent.
Yeah.
Maybe a little weak on the back end, like me. He's got a couple of 5s and a couple of 4s in the secondary, but he's got a 6 inside linebacker, a 5 nose tackle, not a ton of pass rush. I think he's like a 10-6 type team.
Right.
So,
well, I think that explains why he took Lindsey, but for a couple of reasons. Because I was just looking. And I agree that he could split carries with Royce Freeman, but if that would have happened, we would have seen evidence of that this year. He actually had more carries in real life this year. He had over 200 for Denver this year as opposed to last year. Now his per carry average went from 5.4 to 4.5. So if you're asking for like the long-term fit, yeah, he would have been better off taking Chubb, who had a monster this year for Cleveland. But this is going to be the better card for this year, and it's not like he's going to regress that much next season.
Yeah, I agree. I have to agree. He's going to be a better option.
Drafting for this year or next year. If he was drafting for next year, yeah, he probably would have taken Chubb.
And then Scott comes as New Orleans and takes Chubb, and he has Tannehill Aaron Jones, and some really good receivers, at least for this year. DeAndre Hopkins is great going forward. Devontae Adams is great going forward. But he could go 3 wide also because he's got A.J. Green for this year. And Robert Woods. He can go 4 wide. That's kind of a neat problem to have. So he was happy to get one of those impact backs too because
he's got 2 of them now. Aaron Jones was fantastic this year.
He was fantastic this year, but he's only got 133 carries in this card set, so he needed a 1-2 punch to go along with him. So so Scott's going to be happy about that. Mm-hmm. And then Josh Allen. That's where that's one of the picks that Dan and I pegged correctly. So he went 13th overall to Miami, and Miami needed a quarterback because they had Blake Bortles and Eli Manning. So I think that's a good spot to take a chance on him. What do you guys think?
Yes, absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, Dan was a little down on him because of he doesn't think he's going to be carded well because of the low completion percentage compared to league average. So we'll see if that improves over time. Is he a young John Elway type, or is he just somebody who's never going to be able to hit the easy throws and get his completion percentages up where it can be an impact? So then Tom, sleepyhead, we had to wake him up. Let me see if he's around. So we just got to his team, and I think he told me in our private chat that even though the 3 players he got were really good players in round 1, he probably would have done things entirely differently if he had time. If he would have been woken up when he was supposed to, and he had time to go through and really think about things. He mentioned that maybe Denzel Ward is somebody he would have taken at 114, but instead he took DJ Moore. What do you guys think about DJ Moore being the first wide receiver off the board?
I like Sutton better.
I do too. That's what I was thinking. I think Cortland Sutton established himself as a more of like that number 1 type of receiver, but we all let him go through. He slipped entirely out of round 1, so maybe not. Maybe I missed something.
Well, DJ Moore has a better arm thrown to him. I do agree with that. So that's maybe he took that into consideration a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, but we don't know what is going to be throwing to him next year.
That's true.
Well, it'd be hard for them to move on from Cam Newton, but you never know. Mm-hmm. So, and sometimes it gets to the point where when you get called in at the last minute, you got to make a decision. You go back to what you've known, what you've studied. And I know that Tom he loved DJ Moore in the fall.
Yes,
so
he did. You're right.
And I don't think anything happened to change his mind during the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
So let me read you what Tom wrote me. He says, there was so much wide receiver depth in this draft. There was too much wide receiver depth in the draft for me to take a guy like DJ Moore, who I really love, at number 14. He's a great player, so I don't mind, but I missed out on the cornerback. Denzel Ward is who we met. So I'm not upset about this, though, as I'm really, whatever, blah, blah. So anyway, I think he kind of regrets the pick, but it's kind of like one of those things where you regret, you place your order at a great restaurant and it's really delicious, but you keep eyeing like what your significant other ordered or what one of your kids ordered, as maybe I should have got that instead.
Second guess yourself. Yep.
All right, then Detroit picked Mark Andrews. Let's see, I knew he would go in the first round. Right. I thought maybe Tom would take him, but he had George Kittle and somebody else great. But what do you guys think about Mark Andrews?
I think he's a stud. I like that pick a lot. He had a great year. He's got great yards per catch. I think he's going to produce. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. Mick's doing a little bit of a dance between rebuilding and contending because, he's got Case Keenum as his quarterback. He does have good halfback cards. He has a good halfback card in Dalvin Cook, and I'm sure we'll look at later on who he picked up. But Deshaun Jackson, he traded for an old wide receiver with an impact card. Juju Smith-Schuster is great this year, probably going to be a step down next year, but then bounce back after that. And his tight, he also traded for Trey Burton. So you add Mark Andrews to the mix, and suddenly he's got a lot of good targets for kind of an average quarterback like Keenum to throw to.
Right.
So he looks like he's gonna try to compete this year without really, still being mindful of the future as he collects picks. He's got an extra first round pick next year, and he's got Butch. He's got your fourth. So, and he had a couple extra first round picks in this draft. So, he picked up also Darnold. Of course, I'm talking about Keenum. I think he'd probably still start Keenum, but he also drafted Darnold earlier in the draft. So he addressed his quarterback, but he's still like trying to compete this year as well as playing for next year. And then Washington comes in and takes Chris Carson, who like Butch, you said you had a number 2 behind Barkley. So he's got to be happy that he slipped that far.
Yeah. Good pick there. I think that's a great pick there.
Yeah, he is trying to win a title this year. His other running back was Alvin Kamara, so he needed somebody else to go along with him, and now he's got plenty of carries between Carson and Kamara. And, he's going to have 2 really good cards, and he should bounce back from his injury and be ready to contribute again next year.
Right.
All right, enough said about that. Justin Reed, the second safety off the board, the first of those 3-5 safeties, goes to Jason in Dallas. What do you guys think about Justin Reed?
I'm looking up his Pro Football Focus to see what he did this year. I mean, obviously he was a 5 last year. Now, is this a league that you can move free and strong interchangeably?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
There is. I think this is the last year where you can't move free safety to strong safety and strong safety to free safety. But you can move either one, and then next year it'll be wide open, where you'll be able to do that. But Justin Reed, he's great. I don't even have to look at his PFF grades. I saw the way he played. He was an impact player. He just looks like a great NFL safety. So I think that was the right pick at that point. And that's kind of a little bit of a steal that he slipped that far, I think.
He's top 15 PFF. So, I mean, but I think it's important if you are taking these players that you at least are mindful of what they did this season. But you're right. I mean, you've got a guy who looks like he's going to be solid, no sophomore slump.
At 10, I was looking running back or safety. So if Barkley wasn't there, it would have been between Lindsey and Reed. That would have been my decision at 10. So he would have gone at 10 if I had to.
Perfect. Yeah, that's kind of the way I feel about it too. And then Bradley Chubb, Paul half man, half Mankiewicz gets a steal there with a guy who went in the top 10 in most fall drafts, falling all the way to 19. What do you guys think about Mr. Chubb? The other Chubb.
Lucky Paul to get a player like that. He'll bounce back.
I think so too.
Yeah, and he's in the right environment there in Denver with Von Miller there next to him. That's not going to allow. That will prevent teams from, focusing their attention on him and neutralizing his pass rush. Okay, and then I'm looking at Paul's outside linebackers. So he's going to have some nice linebacker pass rush. He's got Jared Davis, who's a 10, Wesley Woodyard, who's a 7, and then add Chubb on the outside. So nicely done. Although looks like he's going to be playing a 4-3. So maybe not. Maybe he'll have to decide between Woodyard and Davis who starts there. All right. And then moving on. The next pick was Tom again. He's got back-to-back picks here. And you can't really go wrong with Vita Vea as your pick there in the first round. I knew he would wind up as a first round pick, even though he's kind of like goes back to Michael's rant about defensive tackle, nose tackle. Tampa Bay went to a 3-4 this year, so he's a 4-rated defensive tackle. But next year he'll be a nose tackle,
Right.
And that's where you'll see his value when he gets to be like a 5'6" nose tackle. Of course, Tom already has Kenny Clark, so can't play both of them at the same time. But I do like the player quite a bit. What do you guys think?
I love that pick.
That was a great pick there.
God, I love that. I love that pick. Absolutely love it. That is a Tom Cook pick right there.
And then he followed that up with Frank Ragnow, the starting center for the Detroit Lions, who was a 5'3" this season as a guard, I think, and then should be something similar, 5'5" or something like that going forward as a center. Did you guys think that was a little too high for Ragnow?
I think he's going to be a 7 for a long time to come.
Mhm.
A pass block 7. I like
Yeah.
that pick a lot.
Yeah, and you have to. What got me is that there's so few centers available. Offensive line in general in this draft wasn't great, but the center in particular was just a wasteland after Ragnow. So
But
if you didn't,
I think that added to Bradley Chubb too. The outside linebacker depth in this draft was minimal. You know,
right?
so you take a reach on him.
All right, and then Ed comes in. If I'm going to see if he wants to type anything about his pick. Ed's actually watching, but he's not, or maybe he's not watching. His device is not connected. I think he's listening in. But feel free to jump into the text, Ed, and talk about your pick. But were you looking at Ragnow? Were you looking at another position? Or, I mean, McGlinchey obviously was the top offensive tackle available. But was that a tough decision for you, Ed? Feel free to type in the text if you're able to, if you're listening live. But if not, I think that's a solid pick. What do you guys think about McGlinchey there as the first tackle off the board? Tackle was really the only spot that had a little bit of depth on the offensive line. So we saw Orlando Brown and Braden Smith go in the next few picks early in the second round. But you still got to go McGlinchey, right?
Well, here's the thing. I don't know how you guys feel about the draft, and we'll look at I didn't have a first round pick, and I didn't have a second round pick, and this was probably one of the ugliest drafts that I've had ever. There was no sexy picks in any of these. It was all offensive line, defensive line, just a lot of grinders. And in a perfect world, we would love to be able to find a 4th, 5th, or 6th round gem that turns out to be a stud offensive lineman, so we can preserve those first and second rounders for, game breakers. But if you feel like this is a need and you can solidify a tackle for 10 years, you go for it. And I think in this case, Siri did the right thing.
Nice.
Yeah, and I agree with what Ed just typed in there. That would have been a tough call for me too, Smith or McGlinchey.
Right. I didn't see. Did he type something there? I didn't see it.
Yeah, he said he was looking at Braden Smith versus McGlinchey. It was a tough call.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
the one thing McGlinchey can do is he's a little more versatile this year, plays guard or tackle. So
got it.
I think he's the same rating.
Oh, okay. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, no, I was looking at the wrong chat. So yeah, I see that. Perfect. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that's one of those things where you have a position of need. You need to go ahead and strike while the iron's hot. If he would have waited till round 2, he would have missed out on McGlinchey and Brown and Smith. So all those guys would have been gone by the time his next pick came around.
Right.
So okay, so next pick is me picking Leighton Vander Esch. Now, obviously, he has that neck injury that cut short his season, and his grades on PFF weren't that great. But again, because of the dearth of 5 rated outside linebackers and the way he looked as when he was healthy, I felt that, and it fit a need on my team as well. That's who I jumped on. I kind of was hoping that Lindsey would have been available there, because I would have loved to have him. But what do you guys think about Vander Esch? His future long term. Do you think that he has a high bust potential because of his injuries?
They say that the surgery that he's having is going to correct the issue, and it's minor surgery, and he'll be back and ready for opening day. So I think it was a great pick.
Yeah, I mean, he went top 10 in most drafts in the fall. Yep. So hopefully this is just a 1-year bump in the road, and he goes back to being the impact player he was. And then the last pick was another linebacker. The Giants, Jersey Joe, grabbed Tremaine Edmonds of the Bills, who we saw. It's kind of fun when these guys are in the playoffs and the whole, that's the only game on, so you're watching him. But he certainly looked like the real deal in Buffalo's playoff run. What did you guys think about Tremaine Edmonds there?
I think it fits into Joe's draft. If you look at all his picks, he's really building up that defense. That's his plan. So he fits right in there. Yeah,
I think that's a good pick too, as he's trying to build for the future. And now Nathan's joined us, but it looks like his microphone is muted. Nathan, do you want to talk briefly about Gus Edwards and his, how happy you were that he was there as a team that's looking to contend at the top of the second round.
Can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you.
Okay, I'm on my phone here, sitting in a parking lot. Yeah, I should have probably taken Will Hernandez, but I didn't. Once I get a card as good as, I'm a lot more likely to spend on a running back, and it was between him and Kerryon Johnson. But Edwards actually had pretty decent numbers this year, and I just decided to take him there.
Yeah, he's right.
Yeah, I think he's going to have another impact card next year, and he's notched 2 years in a row over 100 carries, so you don't have to limit him to a half, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't think he'd be as good next year, even with the similar numbers, obviously, because of how good Lamar Jackson is.
Right, because the quarterback now is not, a drag on the offense like it was in this card set. So, yeah, I think you're right about that. His card won't be as good, but it'll still be very good. I can see him having a top 15 card as a low carry guy.
Yep.
So, all right, I'm going to put you on mute, Nathan, because I do hear some background noise when you're on, but I might come back to you for some comment later on. All right, so now I thought if you want to, why don't we just go through the first 5 rounds and you tell me the next, round 2, give me one guy on round 2 that you want to talk about. It can be your own guy, it can be somebody else that you thought, wow, how did he slip that far? Or somebody overdrafted, whatever. I'll start it off. I'll start us off with in round 2. I'm going to talk about my own guy, but I was ecstatic that DJ Shark lasted until the bottom of round 2, because maybe this is tainted because I had him on one of my fantasy teams and he just came from a lower end and just took over as a stud type wide receiver. But do you think he has potential to be a number 1 wide receiver?
Yeah. Anybody that big that can run that fast, you got to go for. He's like the Derrick Henry of wide receivers. That's the way I look at him. He's huge and he's quick.
And then Cortland Sutherland's another guy that's like that went to Arizona in the middle, towards the top of the second round. So that's another guy that, big, strong, fast wide receiver. It's tough to defend those guys. Who else? Who stood out to you, Butch, among these picks?
Well, I tell you, I'm looking at picks 8 and 9. I got a thing for Harold Landry. I don't know why, but I just like the guy. I was hoping he'd make it to me, and then, Davenport. I think I have to agree with Dan. I think he's just going to be a monster coming up in the next few years. So.
Yeah, that's another guy I was considering with my first round pick.
Yeah,
but I couldn't have that Van Der Esch.
Those guys dropped a little bit. I hate taking Buckeyes, but I was happy to get Hooker there where I picked. I needed a safety.
Oh man, huge.
So.
Yeah, that was huge. I took him at the end of the first round in Somifa, and I really thought that I need safety help. I thought maybe he would be one of the guys I would be considering at 123. So great pick there. Okay, how about you, Michael? Who stood out to you?
We're not in the game of criticizing here. I was surprised that Sam Hubbard went as high as he did. I was stunned that as many wide receivers went before Calvin Ridley, especially with Sanu no longer being in Atlanta. Ryan still throwing well. And Tom I had a conversation. Again, maybe I'm a little biased because I did get him an autumn win. But he had told me that the only thing he didn't like about him so much was that he wasn't quite as athletic as some of your elite wide receivers. But, there were games that he completely took over this year. And if not for injury, he would have had over 1,000 yards. So I was very surprised with so many wide receivers that went before him. And then that Davenport pick, I really like that one as well. I think he has a lot of potential if he can stay healthy.
Yeah, so much for just one guy, because I'm going to say I really liked Ed's pick of Rashaan Evans. That's somebody that Tom turned me on to in the fall drafts, but he just motors and moves so fast. And also Will Hernandez, who Nathan mentioned. He not only did he was considering him at 2-1, he lasted all the way to Baltimore's pick at 223. And that guy's got a 7 pass block, and he'll have a 7 pass block again next year. So nice snag there. All right. So round 3. Now maybe it'll be easier for us to only pick one guy.
Sure.
Michael, you start us off. Who surprised you here? Who do you like here, or who did you not like?
Looking. Somebody jump in there. Let me look at this a little bit closely.
All right, I can go. I thought with two guys. I mean, I thought Rashad Penny was a good pick. I think he showed when he was healthy that he could be an impact type halfback, and with Carson having injury problems of his own, he should be able to maybe move up to and more split the load. And then the other guy, I thought, Colton Miller, who was again, the offensive line depth was not that great, but he had 16 games starting. The team as a whole is improving, and as they add more pieces with more young draft picks, I think he'll have more help to be able to continue to build, because he was terrible as a rookie, but he was like above average this year, and then maybe he'll just continue to build on that. Butch, how about you? Who did you like?
Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about Rashad Penny as well. I'm scared of the injury he had. I mean, it's a pretty extensive injury. I don't know if he's going to be ready to play for the beginning of the year. So that scares me just a little bit.
That's a good point.
Who was the other guy? I just saw somebody that I thought was a really good pick. Oh, Christian Kirk. I like that guy. He's going to be a little possession receiver, but I think he's going to be a good slot receiver, and I think that was a decent pick there in the middle of the 3rd round. And this was a pretty wide receiver heavy draft. I understand that, but he doesn't have the yards per catch that the rest do. But I think it was a decent pick.
All right, Nathan's gone. Dan, let me know. Type over here in the chat, Dan, if you want to join in, or I'll come to you. I'm not sure if you have a microphone, but I was going to ask Nathan about Poona Ford. The 2 guys I took in the 5th round in SOMIFA, Will Dissly and Poona Ford, wound up going here. So that kind of made me feel good, but also made me feel bad because I didn't get to draft him in the 5th again. So. All right.
The Roquan McMillan pick, I like him with Miami. He's a very stout run defender. I'm kind of a fan of his. I like that pick.
Yeah, that's good. And I like the way, earlier in the year he had decent coverage ratings, but they kind of went down as the teams exposed Miami for lack of talent. Okay, so we're on to round 4 real quick. Feel free to jump in here, guys, if you see somebody that you really like. I like Zach. I'll start. I like Zach Pascal. And John Ross. I stayed away from Pascal because I couldn't afford to take another kick returner. He's got that damn LK to go with his wide receiver rating. But as a wide receiver, he's looked good. And John Ross, when he was healthy, he has a high, yards per catch, which made him look attractive. Yeah. So
I like Paul Price. He was hurt this year for Cincinnati. He had a back injury and wasn't able to sustain what he did the year before. But when you can get a number 1, I don't think he's a bust. When you can get a number 1 that dips into the 4th round, that's not a bad pick for later.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I kind of think.
Go ahead, Dennis. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I was kind of.
Go ahead. Just for real.
Go ahead, Butch.
I'm just going to pick a sleeper real quick. And yeah, he's a Packer, and you guys know I'm a Packer fan, but I think Orrin Burks is going to turn out to be a good ball player. He came back at the end of this year and looked really good. So I think he's a sleeper pick in there.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing you have to do in these spring drafts is pay attention because, he only played 5 games or 6 games, but really look at it. Was it the last 6 games of the season? Was he healthy heading into the offseason? Did he have an impact? So, yeah, good point on that. Then real quick, round 5, I'll go one guy at the top, Mike Hughes. When he's healthy, he's looked good, and he was a former first-round pick. And one guy near the bottom, Tim Settle, now that Washington's going to a 4-3, he'll be able to have a spot next to Daron Payne as a defensive tackle. So who did you like in round 5?
I took a defensive tackle, again, another grinder there with PJ Hall, but had he been on the board, it was Kamiko Toure. I have him in several leagues, and I really like his motor. He was off to a very good start this year before he broke his ankle when he sacked Mahomes. He was on Sunday night or Monday Night Football, but he was off to a great start. I think he's got a lot of potential.
Nice. Butch, anybody stand out to you?
I think Dante Pettis has some potential. I think he might come around. I think he's a good sleeper pick, that last pick of the 5th round.
Nice. And I think also Nathan again, he's being able to get Deshaun Hand, a 5 defensive tackle, to get rid of the last 4 starter in the 5th round. Pretty nice job by Nathan.
Yeah,
right.
Something else interesting about that round too, and it's funny. It's only because you have these players in other leagues that you know who they are. There was a defensive back corner that was taken in that round, the 5th round. His name was Trey Herndon.
Yeah.
And when Ramsey was dealt from Jacksonville, Herndon got the snaps for the entire year. He's an undrafted free agent, and he was getting torched early in the season. But toward the end of the year, he was playing actually very, very well, and they like what they have in him. So to get a potential starter there in the 5th round, that's a pretty good move. That's evidence that someone truly is following PFF and saying, you know what, in the 5th round, I'll take a flyer on somebody who's a potential starter.
All right. Okay, so now we're doing speed round. I have the picks sorted by team. I want you to throw out. Let me put a little column here. We'll say Dennis, Butch, and Michael, and don't hold back. We're going to give them a letter grade, okay? Just based on the talent they added. Don't worry about hurting anybody's feelings. Tom's already calloused up the league, so nobody's really cares what 3 yokels like us say. So Arizona, Darren Payne, Cortland Sutton, Christian Kirk, Blake Jarwin, Ian Thomas, Jason Myers, Pat O'Donnell, and Avonte Maddox. That's an A draft to me. I like that draft.
Mm-hmm.
What's your letter grade, Butch?
I'm going to say B.
Okay. Michael?
You got a starting nose tackle. You got 2 good wide receivers, a 1 and a 2, and a starting tight end. I'd say that's a B+.
All right. I like it. Okay. Down to Baltimore. Just let me highlight them. That's a lot of picks here. I zoomed in so we can have the names really big. But Baltimore added Darius Leonard, Braden Smith, Sony Michel, Will Hernandez, Will Disley, Royce Freeman, Taysom Hill, Tyrell Crosby, Martinez Rankin, Kenny Young, Equinemius St. Brown, Johnny Munt, Arden Key, and Nico Thorpe. I'm going to give that a solid B. I like that draft. I'm not a big fan of Sony Michel, but you never know. Will Hernandez, getting him late was great. Will Disley, if he ever stays healthy, he could be, that number, top 5 tight end. Royce Freeman, I'm not as high on. Taysom Hill, guy is like 30 years old. He's like sneaky old. And then the rest of the late draft fillers. So what's your letter grade?
I'm going to say B+, just because I love Darius Leonard. I really do. So, and I think Leonard and Braden Smith are 2 good picks, and getting Hernandez where he got him, I think that's a good B+ right there.
I like it. Michael?
I'm not a fan of Michelle, but I do like the fact that he's got 2 starting linemen, and Leonard, who's a stud, I'd say a solid B.
All right. Okay, now we're down to Cincinnati.
All 4 of my picks.
No, you actually have 6.
Oh, wow.
Saquon Barkley, stud. Malik Hooker, stud. Richie James. I don't know about Richie James. You picked him for his return card?
Yeah, I needed a returner, and he has good return numbers this year as well. So
Tyler Lancaster, and that's a good pick where you got him. Yeah. And then Saubert and Schaub. Is Schaub really going to be your backup? I don't know how his card is.
He's going to be my backup. Yep, I got the 2 old Mats as my quarterbacks this year. So.
Well, I'm gonna give that a B because I think that's a good solid draft where the top, obviously the value is in the top 2 picks, but not a lot after that. So
yeah, I'll go with a B too, just because I didn't have as many picks as I usually do. So.
And Michael,
I'll give him a B+ because I know he didn't get a lot of picks, but the 2 guys he had both fell, and he got value for 1 and 2.
Yeah, that's a good point. Barkley falling to 10 and Hooker falling to the middle of the 2nd round. Neither of those things I would have predicted. Okay, Cleveland. BJ, this is Michael's draft. BJ Hill, When did you first pick, Michael? You didn't have a pick in the first 2 rounds?
Third round.
So third round. So you got coming in late, BJ Hill, Alex Kappa, PJ Hall, Darius Phillips, Scott Quisenberry, who started at center for who's that? Houston? No, he started for somebody.
For LA Chargers.
Okay, the Chargers, yeah. J.K. Scott, Terrell Basham, Jeremy Sprinkler, and Dare Ogunbowale. So I'm gonna get. This is.
It's a grinder draft. It is what.
Yeah,
it is.
kind of what we talked about on last night's show is that once you get past those first 2 rounds, you're not getting as many guaranteed hits. So I'm gonna give this a B- just because of where you jumped in and what you could possibly do. I don't know if you could have done much better, but there's not a lot of impact players here.
Yeah, but if you could put them on there, but you can't. My first round pick was Ezekiel Elliott, and my second was Shaq Barrett. So,
well, there you go. That might move it up to a B. Yeah. I like it. Butch, what do you got? And
Michael, I'm going to go with a B. I'll go with a solid B. I like BJ Hill. I think he's going to be good. I hope he's going to be good anyway. So I'm going to go a solid B.
Thanks.
Michael,
I did what I needed to do in this draft.
Okay. All right. I'm going to make that you giving yourself an A+.
An incomplete.
Michael's a homer.
Dallas is going to make me. Oh no, good. I thought they were going to make me have to take my Zoom away, but he's got 20 players here. So Justin Reed, Calvin Ridley, Dallas Goedert, Tracy Walker, Leon Jacobs, Trevarius Ward, John Ross, Jordan Akins, Foye Oluquan, Sean Dion Hamilton, Tim Settle, Jalen Samuels, Traquan Smith, Boston Scott, Ben Neiman, Will Clapp, Denzel Good, and then the rest. I do like Josh Sweat, though. Josh Sweat, when he got him.
Yeah.
So, okay, what are you going to give this draft? I like it. I like a lot of the guys he's got and where he got them. I'm going to give this I'm going to give this an A-. No, I'm going to give it a B+. Just because that's a lot to digest. But I like the first pick. I like the second pick. I like the third pick. And then after that, it's kind of, I like a couple of the other guys too. John Ross sticks out of me. Tim Settle just jumps out at me. Traquan Smith, another guy. Yeah, I'm going to give it a B+.
Yeah, I'm going to give him an A-. I really like some of them. I like Justin Reed a lot. Getting Goddard there was good, I think. Ward is another great pick. And then getting Settle where he got him. So,
yeah. I should have taken Trevarius Ward. He was on the top of my list, but I kept going back to his draft pedigree. I said, okay, let me take the guy who was a second-round pick in Dante Jackson. All right, Michael, what do you got? What's your draft rating?
I can't give anybody an A because I just lack that ability. But I'm going to give him an A-, especially for where he picked Calvin Ridley, and I like Dallas Goedert as well. Walker is a starter who took over when your guy who went to Seattle left, Diggs. He's got all sorts of starters with potential. Even Leon Jacobs played well for Jacksonville. So that's got to be an A-.
Nice. All right, let's go to Mick, Detroit. Sam Darnold, Mark Andrews, Roquan Smith, Bradley Bozeman, Justin Murray, Jordan Wilkins, Fabian Moreau, Josh Tuopo, kick returner, and DJ Reed. Oh no, that's the other. Yeah, that's kick returner. Cornelius Lucas and BW Webb. So what do you give? What do you give Mick?
I'll give him a B, but I'm not a huge fan of Roquan Smith.
Yeah, but he's got the draft pedigree, and he certainly got the opportunity there in Chicago. Mm-hmm. Butch, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to go B- because I'm not a big fan of Smith, and I still have to see Darnold prove himself to me. So,
fair enough. I will go with a solid B as well. That's where I'm at with that. I do like Sam Darnold, but I love Mark Andrews. But some of the other guys,
I like the Andrews pick was great. Yeah,
right. And I think what's unique about Nick is that he's been able to compete while also rebuilding. So we'll see how that works out. Okay, Green Bay, one of our new coaches, Tom Beltry, Jair Alexander, stud. Kerryon Johnson, love that card, good future, I think. Jonathan Allen slipped way down from like a late first round pick in the fall to he got him in the third. Eric Wilson, I think that's a solid pick. Trevor Daniel, Marvin Hall, Josh Perkins, and Julian Stanford. So, what do you guys give this draft? I'm gonna go with a B. I like those first two picks. I like those first three picks.
I do too. B.
And,
I'll go B. Those first
Michael?
picks did it.
Yeah, that makes the draft. Some of the guys later on, I can tell he's just doing roster requirements, but you got to do it. You got to fill your holes.
Everybody has
Michael?
personal beliefs about what a good draft is and isn't. I think he picked Alexander too early. I'm not a fan of Kerryon Johnson, and I think that Allen could potentially be a bust. I'm not going to give anybody a C, though. I'll just give him a B-.
Man, you should give him a C. I want to give somebody a C.
C+.
I'm
We'll
gonna
give C+. We're going to start a rivalry with a guy that I don't even know. All right, so C+.
All right, there you go. There you go.
Oh, it's on now.
All right.
It's on.
All right. Houston, Michael Gallup. I'm not sure where Houston picked first, but that
Michael Gallup was a second rounder. Yeah.
But I think he picked him before Ridley and Chark went off the board. So, but and is he ever going to be a number one receiver? He's good at opposite Cooper, but what happens if Cooper moves on or something?
Yeah.
So, Derek Nottie, he'll be good as a nose tackle next year.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure what's going to go on with him in the future. Jerome Baker, J.C. Jackson, Trey Herndon, Logan Cook, Joey Hunt, Neville Hewitt, I hate Tedrick Thompson. I'm going to give him a C just because he drafted Tedrick Thompson, and I hate that guy. So.
Yeah, I'm giving him a C too, just because I don't know why. It doesn't thrill me.
Yeah, none of these guys really jump out at you. J.C. Jackson maybe is a nice value, but none of the Joey Hunt. Is he going to be the starter next year? And Seattle's offensive line always winds up giving one guy like a 0-2. He might be the next 0-2. And Neville Hewitt, he was great as a sacker, as a pass rusher, but his grades as a run defender and a coverage defender were not great. Yeah. So, Michael, what are you going to do here?
I'm going to give this, especially, it's hard to get a good grade on here when you don't have a first rounder. And you have to think what this draft is going to be like in a few years as opposed to what it's going to be like just next year. I would say he did as well as he possibly could for this draft. I just don't like the fact that he picked Gallup, and this is just personal opinion, Gallup over Ridley. I'll give him a B- for now. But this has a potential to be better. That Trey Herndon pick, I really thought that was intelligent.
And that doesn't really, that was a great pick. This doesn't tell us what's gonna, what did he use that first round pick on? If he got an impact player with that like your draft, that totally changes things. So
yeah.
All right, Jacksonville J, Quentin Nelson, Fred Warner, Lorenzo Carter, Carlton Davis, Brian O'Neill, Raekwon McMillan, Mike Gesicki, Anthony Miller. Man, there's a lot of good picks here.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Mike Hughes, Grover Stewart, Nick Williams, Jonah. Yeah, I like this one a lot. I'm going to give this an A-. Although I know I'm going to give it a B+ because I think that I just questioned him jumping, and skipping Mayfield from Nelson. That's the only thing I worry about. I'm going to give him a B+. I like the draft, though.
I'm going to give him a solid A. I think.
Me too. Me too.
Quentin Nelson, to me, is the surest thing in the draft. And then if you look at the linebackers,
but he's going to be
look at all the linebackers he picked up.
Oh, I think Fred Warner is one of the surest things that he picked. I agree.
He got Warner and he got McMillan. I mean, he's got a lot. Got a lot of linebackers. I think it's a good draft.
Yeah, Carlton Davis too. He came on this year very well. So yeah,
I like Brian O'Neill.
All right. And then Anthony Miller has got picked it up too, getting him late. I'm gonna move mine to an A-. You guys convinced me.
That's an A.
Kiki Cochee, even him getting
catches. That guy had 50 catches for Miami this year. He was great.
Yep.
That was a killer draft for Jay.
Who? Gesicki, you mean?
Yeah, he had
Yeah.
50
Who had
catches.
50 catches for Miami?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he got the touchdown that knocked the Patriots out of the 5 spot. So that bumps it up right
That's
there.
worth an A right there. Yeah.
That's an A+.
Okay, so Dan's draft. There you go. Dan's, he didn't draft into the 6th round. Great to get Michael Dixon there, though. One of the top punters in the set.
Yeah.
Nick Mullins, decent backup quarterback. Emmanuel Lemure, probably for roster requirements. Buster Screen. So I'm gonna give this one C minus because
When your first pick's a punter, you got to go C.
Yeah, I'll do that too.
And it was the situation. I mean, he made some good deals.
Or give him an I for incomplete.
Exactly. C. I'll go with C.
yeah, and again, we're not giving him. Yeah, we're not really taking into consideration what he got for those draft picks. So,
Right.
All right, the Chargers. Chubb at the end of round 1. Levi Wallace,
Wow.
older cornerback, but he's a 5 cornerback. He got him in late in round 2, I believe. Terrell Edmonds, Billy Price, Jordan Wilkins, Josh Rosen, Jeff Driscoll. Why are you taking 2 quarterbacks back to back like
Hoping
Driscoll?
one of them pans out.
Yeah, I guess so. 2 lottery tickets. I'm gonna give this a B, a solid B. I like Chubb. After that, I'm not really too thrilled about the picks.
Yeah.
I don't believe in Billy Price. I do like Edmonds, but he's probably the worst of the 3 Edmonds, or second worst at least.
Yeah, I'll go B minus.
Yeah, so that's the end. And Michael?
I would give him a B- too, except for the fact that he got Chubb where he did. So I'll give him a B. This is a lottery ticket draft.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, Paul wins a lot, so he has to wind up
Yeah.
picking late in the rounds.
Right.
Okay, let's go with Nathan. We got Denzel Ward, Gus Edwards, Puda Ford, Josh Adams, Tevin Bryant, Deshaun Hand, Taron Johnson, Austin Corbett, Robert Foster. So I love where he got Ward. That was huge. Edwards is such an impact card and looks decent going forward. Puda Ford's been one of my sleepers for a long time. Josh Adams for the card only, and then getting a 5 defensive tackle later on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give this a B plus. What do you guys think?
I'm going to go A minus. I mean, he stocked
I
up
am
on
too.
DTs. He really
Me
stocked
too.
up on the DTs. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that Brian pick is great. I really,
Yep.
really like that one as well. And
he got the running back card. He got Gus Edwards' card, man.
who will be good
Yeah.
next year too. So yeah, this
Yep.
is a terrific draft. He should be very, very pleased.
Yeah, without really looking at things, you got to think that Nathan and Tom probably are the 2 favorites for the league, but we'll look at that later. Miami, Josh Allen in the middle, Alex Anzalone, who got hurt, Marquise Valdez-Scantling, who never really established himself, a 5 rating in Bilal Nichols, Tremont Smith, Josh Jackson, Corey Thompson, Ito Smith, Nick Williams. What do you guys think about this draft? I guess it really hinges on Josh Allen whether he pans out. But
Yeah.
I'm going to give this a C, just a straight C.
I am too.
There's
Yeah.
not a lot of-
I'm going to go
It's
C
no
minus.
knock on- it's
I'm
no
not
knock on
excited.
Eno, but it's not an exciting draft. I agree, Butch.
All right. Let's go down to Bradley Chubb, or Nick Chubb, excuse me, New Orleans Saints. Scott, he got Chubb.
You're skipping Tony. You're skipping Tony there. Dennis.
The M's, the MIA and the MINs. Sorry, thank you.
He didn't have a lot of picks either, but
Yeah.
So we got from Minnesota, Dante Pettis, Trey Flowers. Oh, sorry. Deshaun Hamilton. I like Deshaun Hamilton. Ricky Ortiz, Jannard Avery, Corey Cunningham, and Zaire Franklin. Maybe we should have skipped this team. Tony, I don't like your draft so much. I'm gonna give that a C minus. That's my worst grade.
he didn't pick very high either. But I was looking at Ricky Ortiz in the 9th, and you took him right before me, so I'll give him a solid C.
I'll do the same. That's not.
All right. Okay, on to New Orleans. Let me see it. Tom's here. I'm going to add him to the draft.
Microphone off.
Microphone off. Microphone check 1, 2. What is this? The 5-foot assassin with the roughneck business. All right.
Indeed.
Okay, New Orleans. We're going through the teams and giving them a draft grade. So we're gonna give you a chance to soliloquy on what happened this morning and talk about your draft momentarily. But first of all, New Orleans. Nick Chubb, Jared
Can you hear
Wilson.
me okay?
Yeah, we hear you fine.
Okay.
Sounding good.
I'll wait my turn. Good.
Perfect. Jared Wilson, Andrew Wiley, Oren Burks, Antonio Callaway, probably for the punt return card. Trey Hendrickson, Breland Speaks, a nice sleeper to put away for later. Tim White and Jermaine Carter. I like Nick Chubb. After that, these guys are, again, just, some solid, decent players, but nobody really jumps out at me. I go with a B- on this draft. What do you guys think?
I agree.
I'm with you.
All right. The Giants, Jersey Joe, Minka Fitzpatrick, Tremaine Edmonds, Sam Hubbard, James Washington, Connor Williams, Nate Jerry, Uchenni Nwaso, Chandon Sullivan, Brandon Wilson, DeAndre Carter, and Mark Walton. I like the first 2 picks. Even the third pick's solid, even though he may have gone a little bit higher than Michael liked. Washington's going to have a high average card again, or it's going to have a high average card next year. Connor Williams could be a pretty decent player in the long run. I'm going to give this a solid B. What do you guys think?
I'll go B+. I like the draft. I like to focus on the defense up top.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you're rebuilding, that's kind of those guys in the offensive line are more reliable, I think, in some ways. Michael,
I go
what do you want?
B+ too. Like I said, I didn't like how soon he picked Hubbard, but whatever. James Washington's a great deep threat. Williams is a starter on the line. Nwosu is a starter for the Chargers too. And also that Chandon Sullivan guy who was an undrafted. No, he was actually a 7th rounder the season before and a scrub nothing, but he is going to be a nice extra player for Green Bay. He had a really nice PFF rating this year, so he could wind up being a nickel corner. Nice.
All right. We're going to the Jets. Let's give you the grades and then we'll let Tom talk. DJ Moore, Vita Vea, Frank Ragnow, Colton Miller, Christopher Herndon, Darius Jennings for the impact kick return card and with a contender. I like that. Sidney Jones, Kalen Ballage. I don't like Ballage at all. MJ Stewart, Brandon Parker. For the talent he added, maybe they're not the best fits. We can talk about that later after he, Tom's always going for the best available. But I'm going to go with a B+ for being able to pull it together at the last minute. You can't really go wrong with those players. It's just like, what are you going to do with Vita Vea if he's a nose tackle and Kenny Clark continues to pull out sixes? Ragnow was a great value because there's really nobody at center. And Miller, like I said, I think he's going to turn around and continue to be a good player. So give me your grades, guys. I go B+ for Tom.
Yeah, I'll go B+ too.
I will too. I love that Vea pick. That is, like I said, that is the quintessential Tom Cook pick.
I like those top
right.
3 picks. I really do. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but he got all 3 of them were in the first round, so it's kind of hard to mess those up. But and I think even Tom, like I mentioned earlier, he maybe would have gone a different direction. So Tom, talk to us about what happened this morning and tell us what you would have done differently, if anything.
First of all, B-. You guys are too generous. So, well, what happened was, okay, let's see. How can I make this less long-winded than usual? It's very hard for me. First of all, I'm chewing some fennel seeds. So I don't know if that's coming off very poorly. Does it sound like I'm chewing? I can't really swallow
right.
it surely.
Yeah,
okay,
it's like
I get this.
No, just say it's fine. Go ahead. Just continue.
All right. So what happened was, well, I guess 2 things. Number one, as everyone knows, I've been telling people in posting, I've been kind of de-emphasizing Strat the last 2 months or so, I'd say, and that's probably going to continue for at least a few months. And I don't know long term if there'll be a strong de-emphasis or not. So, and I don't know if part of it was burnout and part of it just prioritizing other things that I want to get done. And one of them, at least to me, is time sensitive. The book I'm writing, I want to spend the next 3 or 4 months really, really focusing that and finishing that, And you know me, Dennis, when I get into something, I get into it full bore, and I kind of go all or nothing in terms of my activities, even though I don't go all or nothing in terms of how I handle my strat team. What I mean is, if I'm into strat, I'm into strat like full bore. I'm not really good at doing things casually. So I was kind of approaching this SSFA off season and draft especially kind of more casually. I got into it a little later than usual, and Dennis can tell you we usually work on this big file, and I'm usually Johnny Gung Ho and pressing him to get stuff back to me, and this time he had to press me to get stuff back to him. And one thing that was helpful to me is like having researched these players so thoroughly back in the summer and leading into the fall of Samifa. It's like I already know all these guys in my head so much, you know what I'm saying? And even Dennis, when we went through the file that we had at the PFF grades, I refamiliarized myself with some guys. But normally I would rank each position, right? From top to bottom, and then I would do a big board, right? And that usually served me very, very, very well. Now I was kind of half-assing some of this particular season, this particular time and strat in my life. So I didn't get to rank all the players ahead of time like I would have, which also doesn't take me very long to do. And I was going to wake up. I was going to do it this morning at 9 a.m. I already had done a couple of positions. I already know when the players, well, it wasn't going to take me long. So anyway, this girl, as you know, guys know, I'm a quadriplegic. I've got a disability. I rely upon these home attendants to take care of me. And of course, Vanessa, my wife, is here, but I don't burden her with all of my home care. Okay. She does take care of me several days a week, but I was, so I've also been having trouble sleeping. We're getting into Tom's personal life and health situations. I've got sleep apnea. I have to use a sleep apnea mask, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes I have a hard time sleeping. Last night I had a hard time sleeping. So this girl, I told her to wake me up at 9 a.m. when she came in, and bang, I would get on the computer. I would do my positions, and I'd have my normal draft. I'd feel more than prepared enough. And I was prepared enough for knowledge of the players, but if you know the rankings, that doesn't matter. So this girl didn't come in at all, and I just slept through it. Vanessa didn't wake me up because Vanessa thought the girl was coming, right? And then my phone rang, and I was like, out my eyes, I'm like, it's got to be much later than I thought it was. And I yelled for you, and I can't pick up the phone. I can't use my hands. I yell for Vanessa. She comes up. She grabs the phone. I see the clock. I'm like, oh, no. But I used stronger language than that. So I turn on the computer. And imagine 11:15, you've got 3 first-round picks, and you have to turn on your computer, wait for it to load, okay? Knowing that Ed is like, well, the rules are the rules, right? So I called Dennis on the phone. Thank you so much, Dennis, for calling me. And he saved the day. And he communicated to Ed what was going on. So I had to turn on my computer, wait for it to load properly, start my voice program, start Microsoft Excel, start Slack, find out who got drafted, and then make a pick. And you guys were all good enough, and Ed, of course, in charge, was really good enough to wait for me to do all that, okay? Now, so what that meant was that I was really drafting without having my rankings for each position group, okay? Okay. I mean, I had the tabs, Dennis. I had the tabs of all the players, and I had the PFF grades there, but I hadn't ranked them. So, I didn't even have Frank Ragnow in my center tab. He's still my guard tab, okay? So, Denzel Ward was not listed near the very top of my CB tab. It was sorted by PFF grade. His was only 72.7, so he was listed 12th when he was really one of the 2 top corners I would have wanted, okay? So, So I didn't panic, but I certainly had to hurry, and there was a lot of urgency. Okay, so I looked across my list. I was like, "Well, I got to get going here." And I, Dennis, I really what I wanted to do, I wanted to be more strategic with value. Okay, this is before this morning's fiasco. So Nathan is great at that, and you're good at that. You'll value the corner, you're not going to value the guard or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And that's a much better way to handle your assets, like Moneyball stuff, right? So if I'd had time to do all the rankings really quickly, I didn't have to make a pick super quickly, I would have right away been like, oh, DJ Moore, Cortland Sutton, DJ Chark, Calvin Ridley. As much as I love DJ Moore, there's no reason to take a wide receiver number 14. Okay.
Right.
So if I had been woken up properly, I most certainly would have taken Denzel Ward at number 14. My team could use a young corner. I just traded Kyle Fuller. Patrick Peterson's getting older. I know I got Patrick Peterson, Byron Jones this year. He would have been perfect as like the young corner, could have put the nickel for me this year. And if Patrick Peterson falls off or whatever, and Byron Jones is 27, he's coming in the next couple of years. That would have been perfect. Okay. So that didn't work out. And really that set the tone, because then I was still catching up on picks when number 20 came around. I had to pick 2 in a row. And like I said, my rankings, I got them sorted out by the 3rd round. I said so. After I made those 3 picks, then I went through and did all my rankings real quick, just highlighted the guys who I knew were really good and I wanted. So I recovered after the first 3 picks. And what I did with the first 3 picks, I said the situation I was in, I just said, look, I don't have time to go through the rankings and make the picks. The picks are coming off the board too quickly. I can't hold up the entire draft, and even more than I already have. I've got to pick players. So I just looked through it, and I went a little more best player available with something of a hint of team need, but also the idea that, you know what, if I'm hiring, I'm not going to take a player that I know I'm not going to be happy with. It might be earlier than I like the player. It might not be the best value for the player. I think that Vita Vea and Frank Ragnow are both very good players, but I really think they were more like guys mid-second round this draft. Really not guys you take at 2021 this draft. Probably if I had prepared, you'd probably see me go Denzel Ward at 14, then at 20. Now Mick said he would have taken DJ Moore at 15. So that means that Mark Andrews might have been there for me at 20. I would have definitely taken him. I wanted him at 20 or 21. Or I could have taken Cortland Sutton. I still would have got a wide receiver. So I might have got Denzel Ward 14, Cortland Sutton 20. And I'm not sure that the other pick. I probably would have traded down into the 2nd round, or I might have taken Vita Vea. So I'm happy with the quality of the players. I feel like DJ Moore, Vita Vea, and Frank Ragnow are all very, very good players. But value-wise, didn't work out that great. Ragnow is good long-term as a center, but these really weren't the guys I wanted at 2021 or that I would have taken if I had my normal level of preparation like I usually do. I like Vea a lot. I heard you said, Dennis, about 3-4 and Kenny Clark. Kenny Clark didn't have a good run grade in 2019. Green Bay's run defense, I don't think did very well in 2019. I don't think he's getting a 6. Also, as Jay Villing will tell you, Dennis, that's not Jay, that's Butch, okay? These 4-3 defenses have been doing a tremendous job in these modern leagues. So me for SSFA, what have you. And maybe I'm wrong about the 3-4. And I know you and I both prefer the 3-4 a lot of times, although you play both. So it's like, you know what? I know Vea is a great player. Let me just take him, even though he's not the natural fit. So, but again, if I had been fully prepared, I don't think you would have seen me go for Vea and Ragnow. But I'm content with those players. Now, after that, and DJ Moore, I love him. He's a great player. But with the depth at wide receiver in this draft, you don't take a wide receiver number 14. You got DJ Chark late 2nd round. I could have traded down from 2021 and gotten him mid-2nd round. I like DJ Chark a lot. Okay, I love DJ Moore. Nothing wrong with him. I'm just saying, as a value, I don't like any of those picks as a value for what you could have done with those selections. After that, I think I recovered really well, and I really like the rest of my draft a lot. Colton Miller, late 3rd round. I know his PFF grades weren't the best, but he's very young. He's raw. Derek Carr was hardly sacked, even though Colton Miller's PFF pass block grade wasn't great. It was okay. He didn't allow any sacks or like 1 sack or something like that. I remember you posted something like that, Dennis, from a Twitter feed, and he's very young, so I like him long term. Christopher Herndon's late 4th round. I know he missed all of next year, but the injury was not one that I think is serious long term. And he looks like a pretty good tight end. I mean, not great, but pretty solid, I would say, pretty serviceable. Certainly NFL starting caliber. So that's more of a long-term pick. It's a late 4th round. Darius Jennings, I think I got him in the 5th round. Great kick return off the year. I finally got something to help me for the year. I have to trade for an inside linebacker. This team didn't get, because I've been deprioritizing Strat, I haven't given them the little moves for the year that they really needed because the base of the team was already strong. And I think that might hurt me, Dennis. So we'll see. I really like who I got the last 4 rounds. Sidney Jones, mid-7th round, super talented corner when he was in the NFL draft. Tore his ACL or something during the combine that year. Philly still took him in the 2nd round, which some people thought was surprising. He's had difficulty with injuries since, but he's still only 25 and played the second half of the year for them, had over 300 snaps, had a pretty good coverage grade. has a lot of talent. So it's like, hey, seventh round, maybe you get a fly here. Kalen Ballage, I know you said you don't like him, Dennis. Now before last year, going to the fall, I really liked him a lot. Like more like a fifth round type of guy. Chris Michael syndrome, Dennis. Now he was horrible for Miami. Miami's offensive line, particularly the run blocking, was atrocious this year. No one could run the ball for that team. Ryan Fitzpatrick led the team in rushing yards, okay, with about 240 or something like that. So it's the 8th round. I know Balage's card stinks next year. I know his card doesn't give anything this year, but I did like the player, and running backs they can bounce around and suddenly run for 800 yards somewhere. So long term, as more of a speculation pick on a player who I like a lot of the naked eye. Very happy to get MJ Stewart in the 9th round. I liked him a lot as a nickel corner, but he's a little bigger. He's got the size, I think, to play safety. I kind of like him as a safety long term. But Tampa played him. He did okay with the coverage grade. He was a second-round NFL pick. He's in the mix over there, and I really like what Todd Bowles is doing with that secondary, which is no surprise when you think about what he did in Arizona. Tampa Bay defense could be up and coming. Brandon Parker, my last selection, NFL 3rd-round pick. It's supposed to be a very raw offensive tackle project. I read some good things about him in the last spring and summer. Not going to play for Oakland with Trent Brown and Colton Miller, but these non-first-round picks are only on like 3-year rookie deals. So this guy's already played 2 years now, and a lot of times, they'll sign as a free agent somewhere and end up getting a chance. So I was pretty content with all the talent they brought in. I just wish that I had the opportunity.
I think part of the problem was when you had to jump in so late. The reason why you didn't even think about Ward is because it was kind of inconceivable that he would still be there at 114, a young cornerback 5 that had decent grades. That's not even on your mind that he might be available. Like you didn't go through and check to see if Baker Mayfield was still there because or Lamar Jackson or Saquon Barkley because you kind of knew those guys were going to be gone.
Well, thanks to you posting me the 1 to 13 selections, Dennis, I actually was able to pretty quickly see who was available. Then Denzel Ward did pass my mind. There was nobody at any of those at 14 that I said, I would have taken him if I remembered he was there. I saw Denzel Ward was there. I thought about him, and I decided to take DJ Moore instead. I said, you know what? I didn't research Denzel Ward right now. I know he's had some soft tissue injuries in the past. But if I had more time, if I prepared ahead of time, I would have taken Denzel Ward. He would have been perfect fit for the team, and I could get another receiver who was very, very good at 2021. Cortland Sutton would have been fine to take at 2021, right? You would be happy with Cortland Sutton at 2021, right, Dennis?
Oh yeah, I was planning on taking him at the end of the 1st round, but Van Der Esch slipped, so I just had to change course a little bit.
Yeah, and LV is a guy that I thought hard about, and that maybe I would have taken at 2021 if I had a little more time to really sort of my thoughts, but I was trying to catch up, like you said. So I got 3 pretty good players. I love DJ Moore. He's a great player. Just you don't need to take a receiver 14 in this draft. So I got 3 good players. I love Vale long term, but not really the best fit for the team. And part of it was me, Dennis. Since I was hurrying after what happened with me this morning, I was also trying to protect the value. I do need a long-term center. Ragnow, I've read a lot of good things about him, so he could fit in, but I really wasn't planning on taking him 21. Again, I think Vea and Ragnow more like, guys mid-second round, 34 to 36 type of guys, not 20, 21 type of guys.
Okay, well, we're going to move on because I only have this room for another 15 minutes.
All right,
so
guys.
Thank you, Tom, for that.
I'm going to bounce off. Thanks so much. See you later.
All right, man. Take care. All right, let's go to Oakland. We got Zach Pascal, Ronnie Harrison, Brian Allen, C.J. Ham, Anthony Ferkser, Robert Tonyan, Trey Quinn, and Mason Cole. This is Dave Gabbert's team. I already said I didn't think I liked where Pascal went. I just couldn't take him because I couldn't afford any more kick returners. What do you guys think about this draft?
What was his 1st round draft pick? Was it like 4th?
No, he traded. Yeah, it wasn't until like the 4th round, I think.
Yeah, 3rd or 4th, I think.
Pascal was round 4, so that was his first pick. So he likes to do a lot of trades. He probably got good value for those guys, but I'm going to give this a C just based on the talent coming in. Not necessarily that these were bad picks, but I like Quinn. I like Quinn where he got him. I like Tonyan where he got him. Maybe I'll go B-. Not bad.
Yeah, I'll go C.
I'll do the
Okay.
same. That's fine.
All right. Moving on to Pitt. Philip Lindsay, Harold Landry, Naheem Hines, Joe Dahl, Brandon Copeland for the card rating this year. Isaiah Oliver, Cameron Johnson, Chukwuma Okoyafu, I don't know, that guy, Chuck O, and Dorrance Armstrong. What do you guys give this draft?
Well, if you take off the guy on the top like you did, it's a lot worse draft. But
Oh, Derwin James too. Duh. Hello. I'll give this an A minus. I like B plus. I'm gonna go B plus.
I'm going to go A minus. I like James. I think James and Landry long term are going to be really good players. So.
Yeah, those top three are impact guys.
Yep.
Lindsay, Landry, and Hines, or James, Lindsay, and Landry. So maybe I'll go A minus. I'll go A minus. I like that draft. Michael?
I will too, and I like the Joe Dahl pick as well.
Yeah.
Who was not drafted from last year, but he's a starter. So that's a nice.
And even Hines is going to have a great return card next year. So.
Yeah, and he had some explosive plays as a halfback too, out of the backfield. When Mac was hurt, and then Isaiah Oliver, those second round pick cornerbacks, maybe we can turn that around, with some new guidance on defense. All right, then we got my draft: Leighton Vander Esch, DJ Chark, Dante Jackson, who I foolishly took over Travarius Ward, maybe. J-Ron Curse as a nickel cornerback, Eric Harris, safety. He's an older guy. Jeff Wilson I needed a third halfback with more than 50 carries. Jake Butt's got a good card this year as a backup tight end. Jake Martin, he flashed in the playoffs, but who knows? And Joe Thomas, I just need an inside linebacker. So what do you guys give my draft?
I give it a B. I like the fact that you got him so late. Vander Esch will be fine. That's value for where you selected.
Yeah, I give myself solid B. Not great, but not bad either.
I'm with you. I like those first two picks quite a bit, especially where you got them.
Yeah. NFL Ed. We got Mike McGlinchey, Rashawn Evans, Ronald Jones, Chase Edmonds, Darren Sproles, Will Davis, and TJ Logan. What do you guys give Ed's draft?
I'm gonna go B plus.
All right.
I
agree with that. I agree with that. Yeah.
Up for Jones, he had a good year this year. Obviously, his card is worthless this year. And Chase Edmonds as a low carry back next year, he should be pretty good, and he's a good back out of the backfield as well. Yeah. I like those two. So I love
Rashawn Evans, and McGlinchey's solid. Jones is going to be good. It just depends on how they card him with how good Winston was on offense as a passer. Edmonds has got a good future. Sproles, he just took it for the card, and I'm gonna give it a B plus as well. All right, Tampa Bay. We got three teams left. Jesse Bates, he got him in the second round as a 5 safety. Josie Jewell, Holton Hill, Kevin Pierre-Louis, and Bobo Wilson. So not a lot of talent, but he did get value for where he picked. I'll give that a B minus, just because there's he missed out on that first round pick.
Yeah, I'll give him a B minus.
What do you guys?
I think that's safe.
All right, Tennessee, Lamar Jack. This is John Madden, and he coaches like John Madden. And he drafts like John Madden. You got Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield. I still am not sure about that, but I see the reasoning and how that can pay off. Orlando Brown, Marcus Davenport, great value there. James Daniels, Rashad Penny, Maurice Hurst, Kimiko Toure, Michael's guy, Justin Jackson, Isaac Yiadom, Rasheem Green, Nathan Shepard, and Marcel Aitman. So what do you like there? Or how do you want to grade that?
I just can't give him an A because I'm still not understanding the Mayfield Jackson thing. I'll give him a B plus. Okay. I like those. I mean, he got Davenport in a great spot. Maurice Hurst, I like a lot as well. So I think he did good.
Michael?
I'm going to give him an A. Outside of the quarterbacks, I like a lot of the other stuff that he got, to be honest. Davenport and Toure and Hurst. Yeah.
I'm going to give him an A minus.
Yeah.
I'm going to give him an A minus as well, and you're going to see him turn one of these quarterbacks into like 3 key pieces next year when he's ready to contend. Okay, Washington, Chris Carson, nice value there. Kyle Allen, I don't like Kyle Allen at all. I think he had his chance, and I'm not saying you only get one chance, but I saw a lot of holes in his game as it went on. David Moore got overtaken by DK Metcalf, Orson Charles, Tavarius Moore, Antoine Woods, Matt Lacoste. I'm going to give this a solid B. He's trying to contend, so he traded away a lot of his picks. I like Carson, but after that, I'm not sure what else I like there.
Do a B minus.
I'll give him a B minus just because he got Chris Carson.
Sounds good. All right, guys. Well, that wraps up our show. Do you want to have any last words before we say goodbye?
This is the first league for Stratomatic that I've ever been involved in, so it's always been one of my favorites, and always very thankful for everything that good old NFL Ed has done. He runs a great league, and it's very competitive. And this is a fun league. It's very unique. It's different. That we've got a little bit of hindsight behind us as well. But I'm excited. This should be a fun year.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. All right, guys. Well, thanks a bunch. Thanks for watching, everybody. And I'm going to post it on the forum. And good luck to everybody this year.
Thank you, Dan.
And enjoy the football tomorrow. Conference Championship Sunday.
Oh,
all right. Take care.
Go Pack.
Oh, okay. Predictions. I think it's going to be Chiefs and Niners, but I want Titans and Packers. So we'll see what happens. Head or heart.
I have to agree with you there too. My heart's with the Packers, always will be. So I just want to. They got to prove it to me. They can't play in California this year.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance that the Packers get blown out by the Niners because they're just too big of a talent difference. But I'm hoping that Aaron Rodgers can knock out the Niners, so I don't have to hear all the Niner fans on the forum gloat. So
I tell you, the thing that scares me if I was KC is Derrick Henry.
Yeah, and I think that they take the possessions away from the Chiefs, slow the game down, pound it with Henry. That Chiefs defense is still not great. I give them the best chance at the upset, but we'll see what happens.
All right,
Michael,
guys.
Michael, did you give your predictions?
Take the favorites.
Okay. All right, man. All right, guys. We'll see you later.
Guys.
All right.
Good to see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.